He worked here for a number of years. He did some European ski bumming. He did some Hawaiian surf bumming. He was a schooner crewman, I think that's how you put it, Craig. He's an author. His book is out here. He has the prints over here. Husband, father, and you guys know him as Gremlin and Gremlin's Gulch. Dick Dahlgren.
Hello, Mammoth Ski Patrol. Hey! Yes, I am the Gremlin, also known as Dick Dahlgren. And I am one of the oldest, perhaps one of the oldest, if not the first, professional ski patrolman here at Mammoth Mountain. Before I start my presentation, I want to pay some respects to an older first-timer, and he's not here, Bob Flo, who is a dear person, and that guy started, good Lord, he started at McGee Mountain, and he skied with Dave at the Rotos down there, I think in the 40s, and that guy's 93, and he skied this year. Yeah. Okay, I say I'm the first professional ski patrolman, 1959. That's not true. And I'll tell you more about that in a minute. But first off, how did I get my name? That's always asked. Well, in 1955, I graduated from high school, Fullerton Union High School in Southern California in Orange County. And there was a car club that made a lot of noise. We drove hopped up Chevys and Fords, and the name of that club was the Shafters, and they lived in Sunny Hills. And they looked down on a lot of us. Well, we decided we wanted to start a car club, and we didn't get along with these guys, so we called ourselves the Shifters. Well, the administration came down on us so fast you can't believe it. They said, you guys will start fighting. Change the name. So there was 25 or 30 of us, and we started thinking about names. We came up with the Gremlin, which is a Walt Disney character in World War II. A little weasel of a flying rat guy flew around in the skies. He harassed warplanes, mainly British. Well, anyway, we chose the name. The name stuck with me. Suddenly, I was the Gremlin. It stuck with me in college and eventually up here. But so that's kind of how that's how I got my name. Now, how did Gremlin's Gulch get named? Okay, it's serious. No, I tell this too. In 1959. We had, Dave had finished chair 2 and 3 and T-bar. So there were three chairlifts. The first chairlift, of course, was 1955. And so we kind of became the professional ski patrol. And to finish how the Gulch got its name, every day in the evening we would assemble at the top of 3 and sweep the mountain. There wasn't much to sweep, but we thought there was. I mean, there was. And so I always chose to go down through the saddle. And my job was to scan St. Anton. And I had discovered this half pipe, which was the Gulch. And that thing was 1/3 to a 1/2 mile long at its prime. And it was a half pipe. It was 3 or 4 times as wide as the half pipes nowadays. Steep-sided, really steep-sided. So you could drop in the top, gain some speed, shoot up one side, turn and drop down the bottom. You felt the G's when you hit the bottom. Went up the other side and back and forth, back and forth. So as the years passed, when it came time to sweep, suddenly the Gulch became Grims. You go down Grims, and then gradually the complete name of Gremlin's Gulch became permanent. So that's the story of me and the Gulch, how it got its name. Now, how did how did we develop, how did we become the first professional ski patrolman? Okay, well, in 1955, Dave built chairlift number 1. And not long after that, the Forest Service said, Dave, you've got to have a full-time professional ski patrolman 24/7. And he had tons of wonderful volunteers, which I think there still are, aren't there? Are there a lot of volunteers, or is that history? Anyway, so, yeah, there were a lot of guys that came up on the weekend, but not during midweek, and that chairlift number 1 was attracting lots of people. So, what does Dave do? He gets Don Redmond and Mickey Gunther, go find a patrol leader. Okay, so they took off and traveled through Colorado. They found this guy, Earl Morse, who was a patrol leader at A-Basin, Arapahoe. Hired him, brought him out. He didn't work out too well. He didn't ski. That's true. He wore rubber boots up to his knees and drove a flatbed Tucker snowcat around. Well, that's not going to work. So they put out the word, we got to have ski patrol. Okay. Well, all right. By that time, another buddy and I, who had discovered Mammoth skiing from another, we're all surfers incidentally in Southern California, and one of our buddies had come up and skied for the weekend, came back down, and he says, oh my God, they got these wooden shacks with ropes coming out of them, and you can grab a rope and you can go up the mountain, you can ski, and you don't have to pay. If somebody gets mad at you or nails you, put 50 cents in a coffee can. And that's what it was. So this other guy and I went up to Mammoth, and our first job really was, we took one job, and we would ski an arm, and we were stay in one of the, well, Thunder Mountain, I think it was the first rope right in front of the lodge. That was our job. But we kept listening to the ski patrol talk, you know, and we had kind of learned how to ski in the San Bernardino Mountains, Snow Valley, Big Bear, Snow Summit, and, you know, we could ski. And you didn't have to really be a good skier. You know, you had to be able to get through all kinds of conditions and all that. Anyway, so, that sounded pretty cool. What are you guys paying? Or what? Yes, Mr. McCoy, we are interested in being ski patrolmen. What do we have to do? Well, you got to have a first aid card. Okay, well, Mark Zumstein was a volunteer patrolman living in Bishop. And did anybody know Mark? Anyway, Mark was also a certified first aid instructor. He came up every fall and gave a one-day first aid class. That was our training. We got a card. The next thing we had to do is take a Sun Valley toboggan down 3 by ourselves, loaded with weight. And that was a little difficult. We did that. And we were all strong. You know, you lift up the front, get that chain off the snow, and down we went. Okay. And then it came to, what do we get paid? Okay. We're getting excited, man. We were excited. We were it. I mean, we were going to take the job. Had to do with being paid. 6 of us, $25 a week, and room and board. And we got to ski all day. Woo! And, where did I live? I lived underneath the ramp on Share 1. We call that the green room then. You know, what did we do with the $25? This is the best part of the whole deal. Dick Agee, who owned the Mammoth Tavern, he charged 25 cents for a glass of beer. So we could drink 100 glasses of beer a week. So we took our $25 and we paid off last week's bar tab and started all over. Oh. That was fun, I'll tell you. So, yeah, Earl Morse, we all had nicknames. You know, I was a gremlin. We nicknamed Earl the Earl of Morse. Well, Earl liked to drink about 2 or 3 fifths of wine a night, so he didn't work out too well. And we had our patrol group, and Dave came down, and Earl was gone. I don't know where he went, but he was no longer patrol leader. So Dave says, "Okay, you 6 guys, you got to pick a patrol leader amongst yourselves." Well, none of us wanted to be patrol leaders. And we all pointed at this guy, Dick Casabon, is the first patrol leader at Mammoth Mountain. Well, it's really funny because we all pointed at him. You! He was the only responsible one. Yeah. And so that's the way it was for a while. And you know, we worked hard. We worked 6 days a week, and we've got you know, it's 10 hours a day quite often, and we didn't care. It was wonderful. We got to ski all the time, all day long, and you know, our big job was doing one of the most disliked jobs was every day. I don't know how many of you guys skied Chair 3 when you got off that ramp, the off ramp, and it went down about 10 feet. You had to turn left or you hit a wall of rocks. And it was always scraped clear of snow. So the 6 of us had to go to the top of 3 and shovel snow onto the ramp. And then for fun, I mean, we would waxed up our snow shovels and we'd slide on the snow shovels all the way down the face of 30. We got moving. We got moving. Well, we were, I don't know, we had no supervision for some reason. Really, it was crazy. Well, Cass worked for, he was the patrol leader 1 year, and then he went to Aspen. This new guy, who really was a 59er too, he's right here. He became the patrol leader. And the guy had a beard, and he had scraggly hair, and he was a surfer from La Jolla. And his name is Daryl Aki. And right there. Okay. It's over. Well, here's the funny thing. We were all 21, 22, and we were kids. 18. He was 18-year-old ski patrol leader of these crazy guys. He was just as crazy. And, I mean, we did so much. We got in trouble a lot, but never seemed to be reprimanded or anything. So we just went about raising hell. At the end of the day, it was usually across the end and do limbo or whatever you call that low stick. You get down and go under, or go down to the tavern and get some 25-cent beers, and it was like sometimes we go to Hot Creek and stay out all night. We showed up at 7:30 in the morning, put in 10 hours. I'm going to finish with some of that in a minute, but and switch to a more serious part of our patrol experiences was accidents. And we had them all. I'm only going to talk about 3. There was a guy working in the cafeteria. His name was Georgia John, and he was from Georgia, and a damn good skier. And he made 1 run a day. He had on his break, there's lunch hour, lunch half hour, and up Broadway, down on, as you're going downhill on the right-hand side, there was a ridge with a lot of scruffy trees. And he liked to go on the far side, and he had a slot about this wide, and on the other side, through the trees, was a bump. You'd get about 30, 40 feet of air. That was every day. You do, boom, go down the bottom and go back to work. Okay? It's spring. The snow is melting. And he gets, it's time for him to do his run. And he goes screaming down the top of Broadway, goes through the trees. The snow had dropped 18 inches. Here was a limb across that gap. He slammed into it with both shins. Got a compound fracture on one, and the other one, the tibia and the fibula were screwed up too. Thank God he broke the limb. because I was on the wreck, and we had a patrolman, Glenn Almquist, who was an All-American football player at UCLA, and he wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon. Well, he used the Mammoth Mountain Ski Patrol as, you know, a MASH unit, because we averaged 17 wrecks a day on a busy weekend back then. And Ian told me that now, in '85, the figure's still the same with 72 guys. On a busy weekend, each guy's going to carry 3 wrecks down the mountain. Well, 6 guys, 17 anyway. So Glenn learned a lot about broken bones. We got Georgia John and cardboard traction splints. I'm not going to go into that. They worked. It was pretty amazing. Cardboard, open. So we got him in, and there was no hospital, no docs in Mammoth. He had to go down to Bishop. And Glenn and I took him down. There was an orthopedic surgeon down there. And Glenn he knew the guy. I'm a student here, or whatever. I want to do this. And he says, okay, you guys, you can watch the operation. Go over to Rusty's, drink some beer, come back in 2 hours, put on some scrubs, and you can join in. Oh, boy! Well, I've never seen anything like it in my life. Glenn's a big guy, and I was pretty big then. And so, and Georgia John's out of it. He's still got his override by now. You know, the compound had slipped up. So he had to get that back down, put it in point to end. So how did they do it? Well, we got under one armpit. Glenn did, I got on the other one. And the orthopedic surgeon put his foot, his nurse guy, he puts his foot up on the gurney thing, the operating table, grabs the bad foot, and he says, okay, 1, 2, 3, you guys pull as hard as you can. So we did. The bones came back. So then he stuck this stainless steel pry bar, propped it up, and the bones went. Anyway, that was one wreck. Fun. My most interesting one was, I call it the scalping. And I was at the top of 2, and back in those days, it was probably 63 or something, we had this, we skied in marker toes and heels and 7-foot long thongs. But this public had this goofy little safety strap. You guys remember that? Had a clip on your boot, a clip on your ski. So this guy had fallen on the lower stump, and that thing had helicoptered. Jeez. It hit him about here and went all the way to the other side. On his scalp, and the call came in. This guy's bleeding to death. He's down there and bleeding to death. So I went down and I went, oh my God, what do I do? So he was out of it. He had a concussion too. So I just went over and I picked his scalp up, put it back on top of his head, kind of patted it a little bit. Got some roller bands around the top, around his forehead. That was it. That was nasty. And we had a wonderful success. Mammoth Mountain Ski Patrol, and I'm sure to this day, are known for their excellence in providing first aid on injuries. Well, we had an All-American football player from USC fall and break his neck at the top of Gremlin's Gulch. And it was bad. And it took us 3 hours to get him onto a backboard and onto the back of the Tucker snowcap. It was flatbed. We didn't move any part of his body away from the position that he was lying in the snow. We kept packing stuff. Finally, several months later, we got this wonderful letter from him and from his doc, and said, you saved his life. Not only did you do that, but the spinal cord was intact. The vertebrae around it was pulverized. He had no support on that spinal cord. So we saved his life, probably for sure. He didn't play football again, but there were lots of stuff. And Daryl was, oh man, that guy's something else. At 18 years old, he kind of I mean, he joined in on our shenanigans, but I mean, at that time, I don't know if they still do it, people that would leave tips. You know, he'd haul somebody down and he collected them, kept them. But our patrol, they didn't keep them. I mean, put them in a thing, a jar or something, jar. And they went to needy ski patrolmen. Guys that had to fly somewhere, the money was spent on that or other things. It was pretty cool. But, were you going to say something? Okay. Another very interesting thing. The Forest Service. Several of us worked for the Forest Service in the summertime. I was a hotshot crew foreman, but not in the Mammoth district. But I worked for the Forest Service on the Mammoth district as a firefighter. And we were the EMTs, the ski patrollers working for the Forest Service. There was nothing in Mammoth. There wasn't even a doctor. You know, for a short time there was a guy called Doc Pisey, and he didn't last long. He was kind of retired, living with his, you know, he was probably 75 and his girlfriend was 35. And the classic story, she was his nurse, you know, all that. There were no EMTs. The closest service for help was Bishop. Okay. Quite often something would happen. Somewhere somebody would get hurt or get lost and they'd come to the Forest Service. And so we would go out, we patrol guys and other Forest Service guys, and do whatever had to be done. I'm down there, I'm in the ranger station, this woman comes in hysterical. And she says, this is screaming and yelling up by Crystal Crag, somebody fell. No, I mean, she was in panic. So off I went, and I don't remember if John was on that or not, but 4 or 5 of us took off right away. We hiked up the trail, and what had happened was 2 Eagle Scouts went up the backside of Crystal Crag. One decided to come down the face. He slipped at the top. He fell all the way down, landed on his back in the table slope. Obviously he was dead, and he didn't have a bone in his body that wasn't broken. So Marty Strodnick, who was the sheriff coroner, came up on the trail and he yelled up at us, "Dahlgren, is he dead?" "Yep, he is, Marty. Put him in a body bag, you got one, haul him down." Okay, well, we're kids, I mean. So we start with his feet, you know, and lift his legs, pull the bag up, put his arms next to his body and slide him up to his shoulders. Well, here's his head up there. It's out and staring. So I got to pick his head up. I put my hand underneath his head. There's no head there. It's all brain. And I looked at my hand, and I just turned around and threw up all over the place. Then there was nothing to do to get this goo off. And, you know, so I just went over to his shirt. That was the last of the 3 accident stories. Okay, this is the fun part. We were Rascals. Anybody that knew us knew we were Rascals. There was, I don't know how we got away with it. You know, and Daryl was the closest thing to, who was going to reprimand us. Are you kidding me? He was right in the middle of it all the time. Well, I'm going to tell you 2 quick stories. I'll start with the girls, okay? Mammoth only had 250 year-round residents, and they're all married couples, and so there were no girls. There were 6 21-year-old boys, and we want to have fun with some girls. Okay, there were 2 pods of girls. There were the foreign ski instructor girls, and then there was the Mammoth Mountain race team girls, so the aspiring Olympians. There was usually a dozen of them, and Penny McCoy, I think, was back there. I think she was one. But okay, and we would go across the street. The girls would go across the street and have beers and stuff. I fell in love with this twin. There were two blonde French girls, or God, they were cute. And so I'm with some French ski instructors, and I said, Jacques, I want to meet her. What can I say to her? He goes, Dick, you say this. Say, voulez-vous coucher? I'm like, no. So I said, well, what's that mean? What's that mean? He says, you just want to take her for a Coke. So I go over and I say it. She slapped me so hard. I found out what was wrong. Well, it didn't end there. Gus Weber was the head of the ski school. And Gus came roaring into the patrol room the next day, reading the riot act. God damn it, you know hard. You are to keep your hands off my girls. Never, no, God, no more. So that was the end of the ski school girls. We had the race team girls. So we went to work on them. Similar things happened. Dave McCoy came into the race patrol room. Boys, the girls are off limits. So, okay, well, what the heck? We went back to drinking beer and went down to Hot Creek and, I was coming to work at 7. Well, this one particular time, this is my last story. I'm a reading I'm going to do. We're down there in the pool. Most of the patrol, a bunch of ski instructors, and some lift operators. Big bonfire. There was this French guy, Tony Racloy, I can remember his name. And he's standing there nude on the other side of the bonfire, and he's well endowed. Up on the bluff, where the trail is a Greyhound bus drives in and parks. Well, and down comes a bunch of doctors, dentists, and their wives. And we are pretty screwed up. This one wife spots Tony, tells him to cover up. He's indecent. And he goes, welcome to Hot Creek, my dear. And the guy started to get pretty bad. And then there was an argument that started. And they told us to get the docs to get out of the pool. It's our turn. Get out of here. That don't work. So we just quietly decided, this other guy, Bob Kesselring, and I, we all got to get out. We'd get out of here. We had a plan. We got out of the pool, put our clothes on, hiked up that trail, climbed into that bus, and put it in gear and drove it away. Well, we didn't know how to drive that. Well, we could, it was in a gear, and you could get the 7 miles out to 395. Then you turn it up 203, and we got halfway up. We didn't know how to downshift it. So it's going. So we drove it over, parked it on the side of the road, and Bob and I got out. And Daryl is following in an old beater car. He picks us up, and we go on into Mammoth. Okay. Next morning, as Daryl tells the story, in comes the guy who ran the bus service, Bob Keats, I think his name was, and he wants to raise hell. He wants to, I guess, throw us all in jail or do whatever. And good old Aki, he knows how to make the guy smart. This friend of mine is a smart man. He gets one of the ski patrol guys who's a lawyer. And the lawyer goes through the books, finds out that the lease language will not allow that Greyhound bus more than 100 feet off a paved road. They are 7 miles down on dirt. And into that. So, okay. So, it gets a little funnier. Well, Keats goes, oh, he wants a pound of flesh. Well, at least give the bus driver all his ski pins back. He had a felt hat. It was in the bus. Well, we're not taking them all off. off and kind of spread them around. We didn't know how to get them back. Anyway, that was the end of that. Okay. Let's see if I can do this. I've written four novels, 3 novels, 1 novella, and a kid's book. And I have a book coming out called Search for Old Mo. And it's about chasing a mythical trout, big giant brown trout in Crowley Lake. And we're all fly fishermen. It's full of local people. It's all locals. I mean, all the people in that book, they're either dead or they're still alive here, and it's fun. And I want to read a little bit from chapter 15, if I can figure out how to do this. Okay, there we go. Oops. And the book is, it's a ribald fun thing about Mammoth. And it has ski patrol stuff in it. 13, 14, 15, okay. The setting is, I had a condo down in Mammoth, a residence condo, and I was a real estate broker then, and not a ski patrolman. I volunteered, and it's a little story about a day that was a perfect day for skiing. It goes like this. 3 feet of new snow covered my blazer. It's still snowing. Heidi is asleep. It is very cold outside, very warm inside. Another log on the fire will keep it that way. I spoke to my son Eric, 300 miles away. He is fine. We had a fine talk. He left the mountains where he was raised. How strange life is. I left the city where I was raised and went to the mountains. It seems we humans are never content. It will be many months before we can try for old Mo again. He sleeps beneath the frozen water. Crowley will soon be covered with ice and snow. The fire crackles, warm, soft light, it burns low. The powder should be good tomorrow if the wind doesn't blow. The temperature's in the 20s. The snow will be dry. It was good. The storm left in the night. The sun rose on a clear day and 4 feet of new powder. The rotary snow plows were moving through the village, blurring the streets. Heidi wanted to play hooky and go skiing with me. I almost gave in. She loved to ski powder as much as I did. Reluctantly, I said no, and she went off to school. I left my condo to a brisk morning, the air filled with ice crystals. My watch read 6:45. Blue smoke floated low over the village, smoke from wood fires that had been burning through the night. If I hurried, I could catch the lift crew and make first tracks. A milk truck from Bishop, a town 50 miles to the south, gave me a ride to the base lodge. Breakfast, a quick cup of coffee and a roll. A few minutes later, I was on my way to the top of 3 in a Tucker Snowcat with the top terminal ski lift operators. Only the ski patrol was on top when Earl Morse, the cat driver, stopped and we unloaded. The mountain was not yet open to the public. There was no avalanche problem. My old ski patrol buddy John Harmoning, now Forest Service snow ranger, had been firing rounds from the recoilless rifle into the chutes in the corner since 4 a.m. You guys mind if I make a run down the face, I asked. No problem, Dahlgren, Harmoning answered from the lift shack. Stay on the face. Don't drop into Gremlin's Gulch. The backside's still closed. Corners could slide yet. Gremlin's Gulch was named after me when I was a Mammoth professional ski patrolman. Gremlin was my high school and college nickname. The run was my favorite, especially on the sweep after the lifts closed for the day. Phil Carriage and Dick Castlebaum were loading their backpacks with hand chargers. They were on their skis, preparing to ski cut a section of Far East and China Bowl on their way to Chair 2. The two were on avalanche prevention team, on an avalanche prevention team, carrying dynamite charges ignited by hand. Right, Bill? Excuse me. Tossed into areas the gun could not reach. The idea was to trigger any pocket slides that might exist. I watched them drop out of sight, reappearing lower on the mountain, continuing to ski cut, looking for unsafe snow. I was alone, and my skis at an elevation of 10,000 feet. My entire world was white in every direction as far as the eyes could see. My world buried in new snow. In the distance, Crowley was completely frozen. Beyond, 40 air miles to the east, was the rising sun. It hung suspended over the White Mountains. The 13,000-foot minarets, Mount Ritter banner, dominated the skyline to the west. Far below was the growl of snowcaps packing runs, tiny orange specks between the trees. I buckled up, excited about skiing the 2 miles of untracked powder that awaited me. I better get going, I thought. Maybe I can make it to the bottom, ride up and make another set of tracks before the lifts open to the public. With one last look at Crowley, I pushed off. Snow was fantastic. I sunk up to my waist, pumped twice, found my rhythm, each turn better than the one before. Snow billowing in clouds around me, and at times over my head. I dropped under Chair 3 to a steeper pitch, cranking off 30 more length-deep snow turns. Found a packed snowcat run and blasted across Dry Creek high above Chair 2, staying above the trees at the top of Broadway, avoiding the machine-groomed surfaces, skating in a long traverse to the wall and the top of Gravy Chute, making a dozen more turns, the chairlift above me not moving. A few minutes later, I popped out the bottom of Blue Ox, glided to a stop at the bottom of the ramp at the base of Chair 1, out of breath, lungs aching from the cold. The lift started. The chairs began to move. I sidestepped up the ramp and was on before anyone else. I unloaded on top, skated twice, skied across to the bottom of 3. Phil and Cass were there on their way back to the top. Cass turned in his chair and yelled, "How was it, Dahlgren?" I yelled back, "Light and incredible." "If you hurry, you can make a run down Grimm's," Cass said. "We're opening the backside and the cornice." I did. I made another long untracked run down Gremlins and spent the rest of the morning skiing hidden glades of untracked powder. "Wow," I shouted to no one. "What a way to start a new day." Now I read this because it's fun, I like it, but some of these characters, 1, 2, 3, 4, are here. The characters in the book. Cass, who I mentioned in the book, Dick Cassbaum, who was our first patrol leader before hockey. Then we have John Harmony. He's in the book. He was a snow ranger of Mammoth forever. I will say something about John. John, his job was laying out ski runs, and he had a way of doing it that got it done. You could almost say this guy made every run on the mountain. Then we have Eric, my son, who left the mountains. And where's Heidi? Where's Heidi?
I took a picture of her.
Where are you? And there's Heidi. So anyway, all I can say in closing is I've done so much in my life. I've had so many great jobs, and the excitement has been incredible. Of all the things I've done, the most important, most fun, memorable thing is being a Mammoth Mountain Ski Patrolman.